Hey math kids, this is part 2, and we're just going to continue with these problems involving the unit circle. So it says, without using a calculator, show that 8, let's see, it's not writing, hold on. Okay, so 8 sine pi thirds times cosine of 5 pi sixth is equal to -6. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take the left side of this equation and figure out what these two things are, and then we will multiply them together, multiply them by 8, and hopefully that will be -6. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take our unit circle, draw it. From memory, we know that our third tick mark right here is our pi thirds tick mark, and if we do like our rough estimation, we remember that our x value is the one that's 1/2, and then our y value is 3/2, or square root of 3/2, sorry. And so that's the point right there. Now since this is sine, remember that sine is equal to y, and so that's why the value for sine is square root of 3/2. Okay? Now I'm going to change colors because we're going to be talking about cosine. Now because this is not one of our initial values, we're going to have to go a little bit more in depth. And so I think of this like 0 or 6. I think of this like 1.1. I think of this like 3 and 4.5. Okay? Now if I estimate pi to being 3, and I do 3, so I do 5 times 3 over 6, I get 15 over 6. If we reduce that, divide them both by 3, we get 5 over 2, or 2.5. So 2.5 is going to be somewhere in this quadrant. And to find the exact spot, we're going to say 5 pi sixth, this time using pi instead of 3. And then we're going to remember that this is really pi halves, is the full value of that. And we're going to subtract out pi halves because that's what comes before it. That's going to cancel out this entire quadrant. And then we're going to figure out whether we're at our first, second, or third tick mark. To do that, we need common denominators. We get 5 pi over 6 minus 3 pi over 6, and that becomes 2 pi over 6, or pi thirds. Okay, pi thirds is our third tick mark from there, so 2, 3, so we're actually right here. That's symmetric with the first tick mark, which this angle is pi sixth. We didn't necessarily need to know that. I don't know why I wrote that. But the important thing is knowing that this is the square root of 3 halves, 1/2, and that this is symmetric with that point. And so this one is -3 halves, comma, 1/2, because the x value would need to be negative and the y value would need to be positive. Now it's cosine this time. Cosine is x, and so that's negative square root of 3 halves. And now it's not too bad to multiply that out. So essentially what we're looking at, we're multiplying those two fractions, and then we're going to multiply it by 8. And so if we multiply the tops together, we're going to get -8, and then square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just 3. And the bottom is going to be 4. 2 times 2, technically there's a 1 under there as well. Okay. Now I can simplify this however, so I get -24 over 4, and we know that that is the same thing as -6. Okay, so that's our proof that that original thing written in purple is true. Okay, we have one more example, and it says find all angles between 0 and 2 pi, including the endpoints, with a cosine of 1/2. Okay, so the first thing is sine and cosine, what are they? Cosine, remember, is x. So if I'm drawing my unit circle, I want all the values that are going to happen right here, assuming that this is 1/2. Okay, it's basically just asking, find all the in one rotation, so from 0 to 2 pi, how many will give us an x value of 1/2, or which one specifically. So we can see from the graph it's going to be 2. Now, if we think to our tick marks, the 1/2 happens, it happens on the point when it's the x value of 1/2 happens on this point, which is our third tick mark, is what we're looking at. And it's also going to be symmetric like that. So the way that I'm going to think about this, I'm going to think of this as my 2 pi mark, also my 0 mark, I guess. But for this one, we just need to know the angle. So if it's the third tick mark, that's our pi thirds angle. So this point gives us pi thirds. Okay. Now this one, like the measurement from here to here, is the same as the measurement from here to here. So we're going to subtract pi thirds when we start at 2 pi. So to get here, we have 2 pi, and then we go in the negative direction, pi thirds. And so if I just multiply by 3 over 3, we end up with 6 pi thirds minus pi thirds, which is 5 pi thirds. And so those are the two answers right here. So pi thirds and 5 pi thirds are the two angle measurements that give us a x value or a cosine of 1/2. So what that means is if we rotate from here to here, and let's get a different color. If we rotate from here to here, that's pi thirds. If we rotate from here to here, that is 5 pi thirds. Okay, if you need additional help, come to Math Lab. Until then, calculator.